meeting. Actually, it's the public hearing for the budget. One thing I would like to, before we get going, our July meeting will be on July the 8th. We do that because of the 4th of July weekend. So be sure and mark that down that it's going to be on the 8th. Once we open up the public hearing, same rules, same order tonight. Public comes up and speaks. You're only speaking about the budget only, budget items. 3 minutes and 1 trip. So if you would at this time, would you join us as Tommy does the invocation?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you again for the blessings you've given us today. Thank you for the good freedom we're enjoying. We thank you for our town and the good work that's been done. Lord, we ask your blessings on the meeting tonight. We ask for wisdom, as we do often. Please give us the right answers for the questions that come up. Help us to do the best things for the most people. Bless our country, bless our town and state, bless all those that serve as fire and police and our soldiers around the world. Forgive our sins in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Tom. Bobby, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take your seat.
All right, Mr. Mayor,
Stop before, okay?
yeah, I was going to go over a couple of things that I think might preempt some of the questions here before we get started.
All right, sir.
The first thing, I talked about it in the last couple of budget meetings, but we need to have some questions about it that I just want to address briefly, is the credit card fees. As you gentlemen are aware, we're spending a considerable amount of money on credit card processing fees for folks paying their utility bills with credit cards. As of the end of May, that amount was $66,902.42. Just during the month of May, we spent $5,851.52. So we're on track to spend in the neighborhood of about $72,000-ish this year on credit card fees. Now, we transitioned to a new system that is, all the fees are shifted to the consumer. So the town absorbs no more fees. The town doesn't make any money if somebody uses a card, but the town doesn't lose any money if somebody uses a card. It's actually processed as 2 different transactions. So from the town's perspective, it's as if everybody's paying cash or writing a check. Now, I know there are some citizens who express concerns about the fees. The fees are variable, and it's based upon the bank that issued the card that they're attempting to use to pay the bill with. If they're using a American Express card or a rewards card that has some high transaction fee associated with it, then the amount that they pay is higher, and the software calculates that, and they're presented that and given an option, do you want to proceed with this transaction or not, based off this fee. If they use a debit card, generally the amounts are much lower, about $1.99. In some cases, saving them money where we had the flat fee of $3. So it's a totally optional fee. If people don't want to pay the fee, they can go their entire lives living in Landis very happily without ever having incurred it by choosing to pay with cash or with a check, with a money order, or doing online bill pay through their bank, something like that. We offer some charge to them for that. So we offer a lot of mechanisms to pay. But simply just swiping the cards and us eating that fee, you can see it was a very expensive proposition. So people question the necessity of it. Well, part of the things that we were tasked to do was to look at inefficiencies in the system and try to come up with ways to save money so that we could pass those savings along in the form of rate cuts. All those fees were hitting directly as costs, specifically in the electrical fund. And as you know, the budget reflects a significant decrease, almost $1 million decrease in the amount of income we project in the electrical fund. So yes, those are fees there if somebody chooses to use a transaction card to pay their bill, but they can do so knowing that they're doing that as part of the greater good to get lower rates across the board, and even then it's optional. Again, we don't profit off the fees 1 penny, we don't lose a penny off the fees. So it makes no difference to the town one way or another whether people choose to use that service or not. But it's it's something that we can offer without any overhead, and we felt that was a better option rather than just discontinuing taking cards, considering a lot of people do enjoy using cards or rely on using cards. The second thing I wanted to talk about, this is a little bit more detailed, is about recycling. There was a lot of questions about recycling. Our current rate for trash and recycling, and I say recycling with quotation fingers because we're not really recycling and we haven't been for over a year, is $17. Now, we had put this out to bid, and knowing that the recycling was actually just going to the landfill, we put it out to bid with landfill services only, the simple trash pickup. And even then it came back higher. So it came back to where it would essentially raise everybody's rates from $17 to $18 per month. Now, as you know, we had a property revaluation this year, which the budget in front of you proposes maintaining the existing rate, which results in additional revenues coming to the town. We chose in this budget, as presented, to use part of those revenues generated from the revaluation to basically subsidize the solid waste side of the house. So instead of losing a recycling bin that was actually going to the trash company anyways, we're now, and your bill's still going up $1, you're going to lose that either way. And we chose to subsidize that and take their bill down $3. Because one of the things we've heard consistently in Landis is not that we got high taxes. Landis has got the lowest tax rate in the southern Rowan area. China Grove, even going revenue neutral, is still paying higher than us. We're at 54 and we're at 53.
No, they ain't around at 1 cent.
So that's the big complaint that we have heard is about their monthly utility bills. So it was a way to try to take a couple extra dollars off the bills. So Kenny, Brandon, and I met with 3 of the most senior folks from Waste Pro, who's the low bidding vendor and also our current vendor, to make sure that everything was there wasn't any misunderstandings related to how the trash service was running here in Rowan, or here in Landis. So what Waste Pro told us was that they take all their trash and take all the recycling rather, and they take it to the recycling center in Mecklenburg County. That's contracted to another company called Republic, and Republic is responsible for managing that facility and maintaining that facility and all. Well, some time back, they, based upon the quality or lack thereof in the materials that Landis citizens were putting in the recycled bins, Republic essentially cut Landis off, and they said, don't bring us anything from Landis anymore because people are using this as a second trash can. They're not using it as a recycling bin. So there were some questions about unilateral decisions being made to discontinue recycling, and I'm here to tell everybody that we haven't been recycling for some time. Now, I don't know at what point the prior manager or they may have been made aware of that, but that's what came to my attention when we got looking into this issue, is that for some time now, we have had the illusion of recycling. And there was 3 senior executives from Waste Pro in our office last week, that confirmed that. They're the people that actually own the trucks and are picking this stuff up every single day. So if you have been doing all the steps necessary, and I didn't realize that what I was involved in it, what's not recyclable, I had no idea. If you don't rinse out a soda bottle, that can contaminate the load. A pizza box contaminates the load. A trash bag, plastic bag, contaminates the load. So there's this long list of rules, and they provided some pictures that they took of various recycle bins that they just a sample from across Landis to kind of give us an illustration of, look, this is the things that people are putting in recycle bins, and I've got those, and it's if y'all care to look at them, I mean you're welcome to. I'll show them to you after. But it's things that clearly aren't recyclable, and it causes an issue. So the division manager, the highest guy from Waste Pro, his name was Phil Bader, and Phil said that he estimated over 90% by volume of the materials put into recycle bins by the Landis citizens were non-recyclable materials that would have been considered contamination. Well, when a truck gets taken to the facility in Mecklenburg County, they assess it. I'm not sure exactly how. I think they just kind of give it a once over the best they can. But if more than 5% of it is considered contamination, then the entire truckload is scrapped, right? They say it's too contaminated. Now, the price, and these are the wholesale prices. This is what Waste Pro is being charged. Of course, we get charged based off per customer, but you can imagine as their costs go up, ours will as well proportionally. Their cost per ton is $45 a ton to take the materials straight to the landfill. If they go to Republic, if they go to the recycling center in Mecklenburg County, to drive in the front door is $98.25 per ton. All right, so over double. If it's clean and recyclable, that's the end of the charges. It costs us $98.25 per ton for recycling. If they find that it's not, that it's contaminated, beyond that 5% threshold, in addition to the $98.25 that we've already paid to get it in the front door, they charge us an additional $102 on top of that to take it out the back to their dump. So now what was going to cost us $45 to go to the landfill is now costing us $200.25 to go to the landfill. But wait, it doesn't end there. That's the fees. On top of that, there are the fines. So we get fined essentially for wasting their time by tying up capacity with non-recyclables in the recycle facility. He says how that works is they charge, first off, the first truckload you bring in is $250, and then it's on a graduated scale, and it goes up in increments of $250 from that. So one of the things that I was able to get my hands on was a December 2018 memo from the Director of Public Works in the City of Kannapolis. They use the same service. And in that memo, he was talking about the fees that they had incurred just at that point, fiscal year to date. So from last July to last December, in those 5 months, because of that, the City of Kannapolis had incurred $73,450 in fees related to contaminated recycling. So you can see it's a very, very expensive problem. If residents don't do everything exactly right, a very small proportion of residents not following a very complex set of rules can get an entire truckload declared contaminated, and now suddenly it's costing us 4 and 5, 6 times what it would cost us to take it to the dump. Also, in that conversation came out that the City of Concord had done some pretty aggressive, I think, educational campaigns to try to get their citizens to follow the rules for recycling, but still there are some neighborhoods there that just couldn't get on board. So they, much like we are now, have some neighborhoods that have the illusion of recycling. That they know that neighborhood, they're not going to take the time to sort it out. They're going to use it as a second trash can. So it's just a blue trash can instead of a gray trash can. So that's kind of what they explained to me. So it all gets back to what would actually be our cost to recycle. Well, with a perfectly clean recycling, if all of our residents done exactly what they were supposed to do, it wouldn't be the $2 a month that some people have tried to and I understand how they get that we cut from 17 to 15. But realistically, our cost, with a little bit of education money built in, and the cost for recycling, because the cost for everything has went up, it would be about $25 per month per home. That's if everybody in town did exactly what they're supposed to. Now, realistically, given the fines, given the amount of it would cost us to do educational campaigns, and assuming that we only had a 50% rejection rate instead of a 90% rejection rate like he was estimating now, realistically you're talking closer to $40, $45, $50 a month is what it would actually cost us to go through and do that. Now, hopefully in time that will get better over the years as people said, you know, my God, this is expensive, and tried to follow the rules more. But realistically, if we were going to implement recycling, I think that's a number that we would have to look towards just to be able to and hope that we got a 50% non-contamination rate. So the current plan, as proposed, it does not include curbside recycling, but it does give residents some options. A single trash can, recycling is all about reduce, reuse, recycle. If you had a faucet in your house that was stuck on and it was running and it was overflowing and it was flooding your kitchen floor, the first thing you do is not grab the mop. The first thing you do is not try to wring the water out. First thing you do is you go turn the spigot off, right? So that's the reduction part of this. So by going to a single trash can instead of having a recycle bin that people are using as trash cans, it encourages people to reduce the amount of waste that they're producing, which is ultimately part of the goals here to begin with. A second can. If you have a larger family, and they say, we just can't manage to reduce our garbage to the point that we can fit in a single can, they can get a second can. The second can will cost them $8 a month. So that would take their bill from $15 to $23. Now, that's equitable. They're using more, so they're paying more. The person who is reducing is paying less than they're paying now. And residents who take the time to recycle properly, and I know I've talked to the mayor at length about this, and I hope you don't mind me using an example, sir, but the mayor has told me about how he has really worked and trained his family to make sure you do these things just exactly right and this all. Well, that's great. That's a laudable goal. What the problem is that the mayor and all his family members do everything exactly right, and 8 out of 10 people on his street do the same thing, but the 2 people down on the end throw in pizza boxes and clothes hangers and soft drink bottles with half a drink in them. Everything that you've taken the time to do is now contaminated. Everything's going to the trash. So the county has got multiple recycling sites set up across the county, and for those who are conscientious enough to take the time and the effort to make sure that the recyclables are acceptable and clean, they can drop them off at one of those locations. The closest one is about 7 miles from here. It's in China Grove. It's a China Grove address. It's out 152, Darby Road 152. It's 255 Rock Grove Church Road in China Grove. So with that, before I go any further, I don't know, does the board have any questions of me as far as the recycling?
Good explanation.
All right, sir.
Good report.
Thank you. At this time, that's all I have. So if it pleases Mr. Mayor and the board, I would encourage all this time to open up the public hearing for the 1920 budget. 2 residents have signed up. The first, you'll need a motion.
Mayor, I move that we open the public hearings to discuss the proposed budget for 2019-2020.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Mr. Mayor, the first citizen is Ms. Nadine Chair.
Okay.
You might try the microphone.
Nadine Cherry, 14 West Garden Street, Landis. One objection that I have in looking over this budget is for the police department, the proposed $1,013,000. 2 years ago, I believe it was, there were 2 police officers' jobs cut. I know one of those has came back, and what I'm figuring is that the other one that was let go will probably have his job offered back to him again. The way I see it, at our last meeting, we had about 4 police officers just standing around. And, it's a real rarity these days if you see police officers patrolling everywhere in this town like they should be. So, as I'm stating, I just don't believe in the $1 million plus $13,000 for the police department. I think there needs to be a little bit of a cut there. And I know over the last several years that the police budget has been cut. But, if we're going to be paying out this money in our taxes, I would like to see some cuts somewhere. And as far as taxes go, compared to China Grove, Kannapolis, whatever, I know if I'm not mistaken, in China Grove. They like garbage, and I'm not sure what all else is included in their taxes. Where in Landis, we pay a separate monthly charge for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadine.
Next name on the list is Mr. Kenny Goodman.
I just got one thing. Well, I think the town of Landis is going in the right direction, setting a flat rate on electrical. It does not help all citizens in Landis, but it helps customers outside of Landis. There are citizens of Landis that do not use Landis power, but pay city tax. And a year of property reevaluations and an increase on most evaluations, I believe the right thing to do is to lower the town tax rates, as this will help all citizens of Landis, regardless of what utility company they use.
Thanks, sir. That it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, gentlemen. Any discussions between us before we?
I'd just like to note that regarding one thing that Nadine had put out, I forget the exact number, Hosey might have it available, but with the police department budget being $1,013,000, I believe that we only have, was it $893,000 of that is actually what we have from tax revenue that goes towards the police department budget. The rest of those funds are provided by the school system and the county, or just school system?
That's correct, yeah. I just did the paperwork earlier today for this coming school year, and from the school system, we're going to be getting about $129,000 in change in reimbursement for the SROs. And then there's about another 30 to 35,000-ish that we'll be getting from officers that are working off duty, getting paid to work security at the churches or at the schools or at ball games or whatnot. So that money flows through our books and is reflected in that as expenditure, but it's not tax revenue.
That's been explained several times here also. It has to show us as for the police department, but actually the county, some other organizations pay. So the police budget's still right around the in the low nines, in the late nines.
It's actually, I think, about 850 something.
Something like that. Get much.
There wasn't some improvements like construction things we were forced to do over at the department also that would be a one-year expense. It wouldn't be repetitive.
Correct, sir. Yeah, there's some capital improvement costs in that budget. What you're referring to, I believe, is the secure holding area for juveniles.
Yeah. And you got to do that, so.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're statutorily required to keep juveniles separate from adults now, so we have to have some way of doing it. Of course, in the past, we've quite literally handcuffed people to our office chairs. So the same chair that I sit in, the Piper Reporter, to eat lunch, I would handcuff somebody to it, and we would have to sit there and watch them. And now legally, if we have somebody who's a juvenile and somebody who's an adult, they have to be separated by statute. That goes into effect December 1st.
There's items in everybody's budget that won't have to be done next year.
That's correct, sir.
All the way through.
Yep.
Things that should have been done 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago maybe. And but I'd like to encourage our town manager, whatever, to encourage the police, fire, and recreation. Recreation and public works. If there's any grants available, possible that we can get, we need to work on them real hard. Try to get.
I'd like to second that, because that would be good for us to get as many grants as we possibly can this year.
Yeah, we pursue grants pretty aggressively, especially Chief Eisenhower since he has taken over as the police chief, and we've been pretty successful at it in the police department. We got one right now that's kind of bound up. They got tied up in some litigation with the sanctuary city stuff for some weapons grants, but it's been quite a while since we bought weapons out of local funds for the police department. And I don't know if you want to expand.
No, I just want to mention, thanks to Mr. Hosey reorganizing the fire department budget, we think the fire department will be eligible have a much better chance at grants than they have had. And that's the biggest significant grant opportunity that I think we're going to see as far as dollars. We're hopeful that Chief Miller will be able to get some funds that the town should have been eligible for but the way that budget was organized, it was not going to happen. We hope it'll happen now. So, Mr. Porter, yes, we do want to look at, in fact, I'm working on one now. We do want to look at grant opportunities. That's a no-brainer.
I know the fire department was talking about Enoch was able to buy demo tools, those new tools. Maybe we're buying the demo lawnmower.
He may, but that's a good point about grants. I agree, the town needs to do more with it.
If I can add on a reminder that for the sewer, we're just been eligible and been granted a little over $1 million to upgrade to the lift stations. And we're in the process of, hopefully it's going to take a year for the grant process to happen, but the I&I or the rainwater that goes into our southern eastern part of town, we hopefully will be getting another $1 million grant to help with that infiltration. So we're looking at $2 to $3 million, hopefully down the road, guaranteed at least $1 million if everything goes through with that. We made that announcement about
When it
3 months
comes to
ago.
our sewer, we need all of those.
Yes, sir. Yes, we do.
I hope that all of our citizens can see now that there's a lot of departments going in the right direction. And like Tommy said a few months ago, good things are coming, better things are going to be happening. This takes time. You can't do it overnight.
Public hearing is now closed.
We have to make a motion.
Yes.
I move that we close the public hearing.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Budget amendment, we got to-
At this point, you would consider adopting the budget.
We got to get the adopted budget first.
Mayor, I move that we adopt the budget that's presented to us for the year 2019-2020 fiscal year.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. More discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Budget amendments. This is some end-of-the-year house cleaning type of amendments.
This isn't called cooking the books, is it?
No, sir. No, this is called scraping off the burnt crumbs off the bottom of the muffins here. This does not authorize any new expenditures. This simply moves some money around within the funds to pay bills that we've already incurred. It's really quite that simple. It's really, the budget should have been amended prior to these expenditures being incurred, and in one case, it is kind of like that. It was a contract signed for some services at the Passive Park, and then it pays that bill. That's what you're seeing going into the parks. And in the police department, the $38,000, what you're seeing there is where our salary budget was under budgeted. It didn't include a lot of the off-duty work like I was talking about earlier, and they only budgeted $100,000 on the revenue side for SRO reimbursement. We actually got back a little over $125,000, so the police department actually come out about $50,000 better than it looks. So we were about $12,000 under instead of $38,000 over. And administration is some professional fees that we incurred there. The simplest way to do that was there was budget surpluses under the streets and fire departments. So I simply took those surpluses there, money that was unused that would expire at the end of this week, pulled those back, shifted it over where it was needed. The other thing is in the water and sewer fund. That's the big chunk of money there you can see. As we've discussed, when Chief Eisenhower and I came across the train tracks, we found a situation where almost every bill that we had was well behind. And one of the ones that was the worst behind was the sewer bill with the city of Salisbury. So we had been looking at several different options on how to get caught up with that sewer bill. And after meeting with the accountant today, and I apologize, I didn't get a chance to go over all this in detail with y'all individually beforehand, but I think the most prudent thing for us to do is go ahead and move this money from the water fund to the sewer fund, and go ahead and satisfy this outstanding balance in the sewer fund, which is $265,000. So it frees up some money that was unexpended in the water fund, pulls $87,000 out of the water fund balance, transfers that total of $265,000 to the sewer fund, and will allow us to satisfy that, or we will have a zero balance in the city of Salisbury sewer fund.
This will pay our bill.
Correct.
So the other fund we were going to use for that, we just put it in surplus then?
It'll be ours to do with as we choose.
Good. That's right, that's correct.
But about 4 or 5 months ago, we got a city of Salisbury, about 450,000.
It was close to $500,000.
Yeah, so anyway.
So, yeah, I've been whittling away on it as we could, as months went by, and negotiated with Salisbury's city manager and their finance director, and they gratefully, I know it's not too often kind words are said in these chambers regarding the city of Salisbury, but I'll say them when they're due. They very graciously agreed to waive a considerable amount of late fees that the town had incurred because the sewer bills were so far behind, and that really, had they not done that, this would not be possible, and we would have been forced to.
Well, as a member of the board, I would hope that you would express our sincere thanks.
I certainly will, sir. I will do it as I handle the check.
I move that we adopt the budget amendments.
These amendments are on the current budget, doesn't affect the new budget we just voted on.
Correct, sir. Yeah, this is amending the budget that ends at the end of this week.
I move that we adopt the amendments to the budget year 2018 to 2019.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Before we adjourn, I'd like to take a moment to especially tell Roger, Kenny, Brandon, John was involved in something, and he has the biggest department, so he's worked with them very closely on public works and parks and everything he's done. Well, you've done a tremendous job on this budget with what you had to work with.
Thank you.
I think that we talk about it, and I hope that people realize it, but in the last couple of months, we have, this board has approved around $1 million cut in electric rates. And besides that, then we're scheduled, in this next year to put around $500,000 into savings, different departments. And that is, I don't know if you really realize probably where we were at a year and a half ago. Tremendous job. I thank you, everyone on the board. I know I thank you. I certainly hope, and I really do believe, that whenever citizens, they read this or hear this, they're going to thank you also. So, thanks again.
I appreciate that. It was a team effort, as you said. It was a lot of work by staff, Ron, and all the people that worked. Kenny, Brandon, Debbie.
All of you, and Debbie, and especially Debbie.
Yeah.
Well, all the staff. I mean, everyone is helpful, but basically, these three right here started putting all this together. They knew they had their work cut out for them, and I've seen them sit in the office. They was here and leave for 2 or 3 months there, working 12, 14 hours a day, working on the weekends. This budget was quite a chore, coming up with the budget to accomplish all of it. So, again, with no more to say, thank you so much.
Thank you. And before you adjourn, if I could, I just want to remind everybody that Town Hall is going to be closed on Friday so that we can close our end of the year books.
It's July 1st.
July 1st?
July 1st.
Oh, I'm sorry.
July 1st.
Monday, not Friday. I misspoke. Monday, July 1st to do our book closeout.
And it'll also be closed July 4th as well, right?
Yeah, for the holiday. And our next scheduled board meeting is July the 8th.
Yeah, please remember the 8th and don't come on the 1st.
Mayor, I move we adjourn.
We have a second. I mean a first. How about the second?
Second.
We have a second. No more discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank y'all so much for coming. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you on the 8th.